Recently, you must have heard that U.S Trump, along with 18 CEOs of various large businesses in America, has visited China, Xi Jinping. So let me decode why they have visited. There has been a big agenda behind this urgent travel. For this, you should know what is Plaza Accord. So way back in 1985, unlike the America it used to be, they had a large trade deficit, means whatever they export has been much larger compared to whatever they consume or they import, which is very bad for the economy or its growth. Second thing, US dollar was too strong that it is so costly for others to buy using US dollar, and they used to avoid US products, hence a trade deficit. So US manufacturers or businesses has been struggling to sell products across the world, and then because of that the economy was going down. Then as always, the strategic US government, they called countries like France, West Germany, Japan and UK to a hotel named Plaza in New York City way back in 1985, and then they made a secret agreement. They all decided to devalue US dollar against all other currencies, especially with yen, Japanese yen. Now what happens if the currency, the US dollar is devalued, the US dollar becomes cheaper and countries can easily buy US products using cheaper US dollar. So cheaper export means US can export lot of things and their economy can grow. In return, what Japan got, they were allowed to invest in US, in the sense they were allowed to set up their manufacturing facilities in US, especially for auto sector like Nissan, Toyota, Honda, etc. These companies largely flourished there. So everything went well. The Japanese yen appreciated a lot against US, and what happened? Everything was going well. Then the Japanese exports become costlier because the yen become costlier means it became so costly to buy Japanese products. So the Japanese economy went on a downturn, and then they had to reduce the interest rate so low, as low as 0% and even negative interest rates, and they have been struggling for last 30 years to get out of that economic downturn. Now recently only they have started increasing the interest rates. So lot of Japanese yen flew to US real estate, US treasury bonds, treasury bills, and even US businesses. So you should know that Japan is still the largest holder of US treasury bills, and floating the treasury bills or treasury bonds is how US raises capital and prints money and funds its economy. But now the Japan story is over, so US is against China to devaluate US dollar against Chinese yuan. But then China, Xi Jinping is also intelligent, and they don't allow yuan to appreciate with respect to US dollar, unlike Japan, because China wants to be an economic superpower, and if the yuan is appreciating, then the exports from China becomes costlier and nobody will buy from China. So they don't want that. But then China and US has come up with an agreement, probably, wherein they will devaluate US dollar against an asset class, not Chinese yuan, but then probably gold. That is why US has been selling gold left and right since last 5 to 6 months, and China has been accumulating gold, and this trade is not directly visible because US sells to China the gold via Switzerland, an indirect trade, but it is happening. So that is why you could see a surge in gold and all, wherein US dollar is depreciating with respect to gold.
Now, American investors are selling their gold at a time when their Asian counterparts are showing no signs of slowing down their bullion purchases. Now, this suggests that investors in these two regions view the world economy differently. Americans are cashing in on the gold surge, while Asians are looking to the precious metal as a hedge against currency devaluation and geopolitical unrest.
China's central bank has significantly increased its gold buying efforts. That's marking 17 consecutive months of accumulation through March 2026. This increase comes as the Iran war intensified through March that impacted gold prices. During the war month, the People's Bank of China bought the most gold in more than a year. As prices come under pressure amid the Iran war, China's buying demonstrates that a key pillar of support for the precious metal that remains intact. While traditional safe haven demand often boosts gold prices, the ongoing conflict has coincided with intense volatility. That caused gold prices to sink 12% in March. That's the worst monthly performance since 2008. China has used that crash in price to add to its holdings. The country's aggressive purchases are widely seen as a long-term strategic move. This is to diversify its foreign exchange reserves away from dollar assets.
So Chinese yuan stays strong, US dollar devaluates without depreciating the Chinese yuan. A win-win situation. If you see the poor Iran, 20% of the trades, the energy flow, including the cooking gas, the oil, everything happens through Strait of Hormuz, which is now blocked by Iran. So this was, if you ask me, a coordinated plan of China and US wherein the US wanted to get out of the large growing 40 trillion debt, and no other way was found out other than this deal, just like similar to this Plaza Accord way back in 1985. And here China also has agreed to invest almost $1 trillion in USA, in America, setting up various manufacturing companies or other companies in US. So China will get a large exposure to the large consumer economy of US, and US gets to revive its economy as well. Way back in October 2025, China had proposed this, but US was not agreeing to this, but now they are in big trouble, and Trump has taken these CEOs for a comfort level discussion with Chinese officials, and then they are getting this done. But then China has also asked US to waive off or reduce the tariffs so that the Chinese exports increases and their economy also gets a boost. Also, China wants access to Taiwan because Taiwan is one of the largest semiconductor manufacturer. Almost 90% of world semiconductor manufacturing happens in Taiwan. And also access to rare earth metals is what China is looking at, whose negotiation is probably going on or probably has happened in that meeting with Trump. So now you know the hidden agenda between US-Iran war and Israel coming in. All those things are just show off. What they are doing is they are bringing a new world order wherein US will get out of this economic issue and China probably will emerge as one of the superpowers without US completely losing its power. See you in next video. Till then, happy investing.